Let's jump in with this. Every word is powered by the idea that the listener conjures to match it. In other words, get it? The power of a word is in its interpretation, not in its intent. So let me put that another way. It doesn't really matter what the person actually said. The sound that they make is not really of the utmost important. What they're trying to tell you with the sound is important. So if I say help, or if I say please, or if I say kadada, either way, I'm asking you for help in some kind. I'm beseeching you. In other words, the intent is what I'm trying to express to you. Please help. It doesn't matter what you hear. It's what you understand from what I say. Here's an example. Air. You may have just thought of air as in heir to the throne, or air that you breathe. You may have heard the Shakespearean air, like air we are. I intended air you breathe. That's not really the point though. If I just say air with no words before or after it, I'm leaving all the interpretation to you. If I use a full sentence like I like to breathe fresh air, I give you more clues as to what I mean because I'm asking you to decipher the sound I like to breathe fresh and air. I'm asking you to interpret all of those things and then come to the conclusion that what I'm telling you is I like to breathe fresh air. Fresh air is what I like to breathe. So if you don't speak English, the magic actually becomes even more clear. Okay, so communication is about the person listening, not the person talking. I make sounds. You come to mostly reasonable conclusions as to what they mean. Love and amor mean love, but they're spelled and they even sound different. So how do you communicate it? You know, like you got to communicate that in a non-wordy way. This is also coupled with the myriad studies. Well, myriad may be a slight exaggeration, but there's several studies out there that have basically shown and even charted what parts of communication are the most impactful, the most important, blah, blah. And it turns out that most of communication happens non-verbally. It happens like with body language and scent and what you see from the other person and what you're seeing. And like communication is really mostly body language and a little bit of the yakety, 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 yak. So I encourage you to look that up as you digest this idea that it's the ideas that power words, nothing more, nothing less. And on top of that, you're not even the most important part of communication. So don't get all caught up in saying quite the wrong things. If you really intended something, good and someone's interpreting it bad, don't don't really take offense to the, I guess, lack of understanding of what you mean. Just rephrase it. Fuck it. Rephrase it. They didn't get it. They interpreted the badness, but you didn't really say anything bad that you could think of, so fuck it. Rephrase it. Because they're interpreting your sounds in a certain way. And without a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of retraining of their brain and their disposition, there's really no way that you can get them to quite understand the way that you want them to understand by repeating the same thing. It's beating a dead horse. So what does this have to do with self-mastery? Well, I'll tell you. Communication is extremely important, and words are extremely, extremely, extremely prevalent in society. We have an extremely social society, and that's just globally. You can go in any culture and, see humans are really fucking social. We like to communicate. On top of that, our technology allows us to communicate with words even more. We can send people books to read. We can send people song lyrics. We type things to them. We read the things that they type. And even though we're able to look up words and shit, I would go ahead and venture that most people don't even bother, because when you're in a regular conversation and you don't understand something, Rather, when you're face to face with somebody and they use a big word you don't know, you either pretend you know it or you ask them directly. You don't hit the dictionary. There's people that do that. Like, don't get it twisted. There's people that crack the dictionary open when they don't understand shit, like in the moment. But most people don't do that. you know and so it's important for self-mastery to get this, to understand all of this, simply because you have to communicate with yourself internally, and you have to communicate with the world externally, not only in order to understand it, but to use that understanding to better yourself, to figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are so that you can improve on your weaknesses. You have to be able to say something to yourself and be able to understand it, or yourself has to say something to you and you have to be able to understand it. Another way to put it is, if you're bad at communicating, if you're terrible at using words, and you don't really get that words have connotations even to you, like even the words you use have connotation even when you're talking to yourself, if you don't really get that, then you'll be asking the wrong questions, and then inherently you'll be getting the wrong answers. So therefore it will be an asset to keep those skills sharp. That last part is a sentence I wrote down. It would be an asset to keep those skills sharp.